and welcome again to my humble channel. I hope you will find here the peace you need in these difficult times. I think it's important to take the necessary time to rest, recharge, and take care of ourselves so we can have the energy to better support those we love. This video will be part 2 of creating a VR Slingshot game. Last time, I promised I'd explain how I designed the simple teleportation mechanic to tackle movement in our little game. Since last video, I took some time to polish and partially redesign the system so I could present it to you with a clear concept you might benefit from, or simply enjoy. I believe game design to be a complex, sometimes unconventional, but deeply expressive art form. Not many think art when seeing code or a node graph. But like the mechanics hidden beneath the complexity of brushstrokes in an oil painting, or the profound understanding of 3D shape and knowledge of anatomy required for sculpting, the logic and technical design behind games is a fundamental requirement to creating and expressing an interactive experience. Combined with virtual reality allowing us to live the impossible, the one true first-person experience of artistry, it is my opinion that game design is one of the greatest art form. Poetry aside, the fact that I'm creating a simple slingshot game is not lost on me. I'm not the greatest artist. I'm just still learning, like I hope you might as well. I just want to share my love and passion for the medium. I think we need more of that in the world. So let's get started. We must start by first creating a solid plan for what we want the system to feel like, turning again to the essence of the slingshot for inspiration. A pull and release of energy. I already knew I wanted the slingshot to have an alternate fire mode for transportation. I thought first of making the player instantly teleport with a special teleport shot. But this caused frustration, as using a slingshot requires skill and can sometimes feel imprecise. If the player misses a shot, they might end up very confused as to where they land, in addition to problems like firing multiple shots in quick succession, and then the shots landing in an unexpected order. So I moved to having the system hold the player while they plan their routes by tagging the environment, moving them only on release of the alternate fire mode. Something here feels familiar. Coming up with this design was not a linear process, but I will spare you the twists and turns for sake of comprehension. First step is activating alternate fire. Keeping up with simplicity, as the right trigger is used to pinch the cord, using the left trigger to squeeze the slingshot felt quite natural to me. I created this intermediary state here to address a few glitches that may totally be coming from my misunderstanding of my tools, but I'm result-oriented. So, spaghetti code for all is my presidential promise. As we enter alternate fire, the slingshot powers up and starts humming gently. These sounds are activated here to keep them out of the tagging loop and maintain the humming until we are finished. The next frame event was added to address the first strange behavior. When playing a sound and leaving wait for end of clip unchecked allows the sound to keep playing while we move on. But there seems to be an issue with playing looped sounds, like the humming, making us get stuck in this state for an eternity. And before moving on, we activate the rendering of the tagging system. I'll address this action in just a second. Next we enter the alternate mode idle state. It functions like the normal start idle state, but leads to the teleport system and has a few additional actions. But before continuing, I have to address a hidden issue with the tagging system, because 90% of game dev is designing for what we'll call user error to ensure an experience as smooth as possible. It ended up quite natural to release both triggers at the same time when trying to teleport quickly. When the player does this, 4 states need to be considered. What trigger was released first, frame perfect is paired with one of those possibilities, multiplied by if the player had tagged a location while in the current loop. Keeping that in mind, let's continue. Still in the alternate idle state, it contains its own cleanup actions to reset the position of the tagging system in case a position was registered while not in alternate fire mode, or if the player changed his mind and cancels out of the mode after having tagged a location. Next is the standard right trigger check to start pulling the string, followed by a somehow strange left trigger check. Another step in spaghetti code. When this state is entered, I need to check if a button is not pressed, which I will humbly say I don't think I know how to do that properly. But the action lets us save the quantum state of the button in a variable called a boolean. And then we can just check that variable and make a logic test, right? The variable will be set to true most of the time. But if this state is entered for the first time in a loop and was previously set to false, then I think it will somehow skip the check and insta-cancel before we can actually recheck the trigger. I'm 99% sure I don't know how to code, 1% think this is a bug, but we have the power of spaghetti and anime on our side. Next is the standard pinch proximity check and the pull strength measurements we covered before. The only difference here is a left trigger check in case the player changes his mind mid-pull, to which we'll send straight down the teleport line, moving them if they had previously tagged a location and not doing much otherwise. Moving on to on-right trigger release, checking the pull strength, testing if it wasn't pulled far enough and resetting back into the idle, or shooting a projectile. There are still issues that need to be addressed using this design. I'm thinking of adding a grace timer to detect user error and maybe even move on to an optional quickshot system. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's quickly cover the projectile and tagging itself before moving on to the best part, the teleport itself. I'm a little ashamed to show this, because this isn't as spaghetti as it's simply bad coding. But here's what I did anyway. I simply needed to project a raycast from the projectile in the direction it was traveling to detect a precise contact point in which to move the tag. Side note, a raycast is like a laser pointer function that returns information on things it intersects. To do this, I have a child object that lags behind the projectile. I have the projectile look at the child and fire a raycast out of his ass. I know, I should have just used math to subtract the current position from the one on the previous frame and gotten a transform direction and used that to cast a raycast. But I'm lazy. I wanted to test the tag system, and it just worked, so I never fixed it. I'll fix this one day, I swear. Sometimes just pushing really hard is easier than going to look for a lever. And now the moment you were waiting for, the teleportation. Step 1. Use post-processing to convey the ethereal nature of the movement. Step 2. Stop the alternate mode sounds if they are still playing, and play a wobbly whoosh sound. Step 3. Get the position of the tag and the current position of the player and let the lerping begin. I use an animate float action to affect the lerp ratio and precisely control the feel of the movement to minimize sickness and to feel powerful. I then apply the new lerped position. This happens every frame until the animate float completes. The position of the tag is also checked every frame, and the player is also parented to the tagged object to attach itself in case of a moving target. Finally, a cleanup state to reset visuals and delete any rogue projectile before returning to the idle state. Oh, and I almost forgot the particles. They are less than perfect, so I think I'll save this topic for a better use example, or when I polish them. Teleport complete? Well, not really. Just from looking at the graph, I can think of a dozen edge case player behavior that would give strange, unexpected results. But we're going to take a break from holding players' hands for now. Now you may be saying, "Sir, aren't you glossing over something?" To which I'd reply with, "Oh, no need for formalities, you can call me Remy. And yes, I haven't mentioned this map yet. That's because I wanted to test the teleportation in a larger environment, but I ended up getting lost in optimization and performance checks. You might have noticed the crusty frames I've been getting. They are a result of me recording the Unity editor as the game runs. Also, this map is 1 kilometer squared and is densely populated. I want to make a longer video dedicated to level design and nature environments so I can go full Bob Ross on you guys. But you guessed it, this video is getting a little long. I wish I could cover more and quicker, but I have to find a balance between entertaining, informative, and concise. Hopefully I've nailed at least one of those. So we'll catch up next time. Thank you for joining me. Remember to love each other, and thought to reality, is only a few clicks away.